Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. This is a podcast where I share, along with wedding experts and guests, wedding industry tips for your social media marketing, your digital marketing, the works. And today we have somebody who has done the works and knows it all. It is none other than Brian Lawrence of Brian Lawrence Weddings. Brian Lawrence is a wedding industry go to for web design and SEO resources recommended by experts like Alan Berg. We love his podcast, Shannon Tarrant, and Joe Bunn. His boutique agency has designed numerous websites for DJs, venues, and other wedding vendors across the US and Canada. He has spoken at Wedding MBA 4 times, Wedding Wire World, and has done numerous webinars and podcasts, which is how I first discovered Brian and said, where have I been that I haven't been following him? He was homegrown in the industry, owning numerous wedding businesses and being a VP of a national wedding brand. It was on the Venue RX podcast that I first heard Brian and reached out to him on LinkedIn years ago. And now, Brian, I consider you a true friend, and I'm really, really honored and excited to have you on the podcast today. Hello, Brian.
Hey, well, we've had some really quality experiences together. You're a great human being and business person, and respect your work. You've done some quality work for me, and helped my team members, and I'm really happy to support your podcast and try to make a difference with your listeners.
Thank you. And I know you will because, I'm glad you touched on those things about, us being connected in terms of our businesses and as people, because you have helped me as a business owner and as a person. But what I learned was that wasn't exclusive to me. That's just what you do with all of your clients, with all of your colleagues. That is what you do. You're there to help them as people and as businesses. So I'm just really excited to have you reach more people through my community now. I'm sharing you. I'm finally letting the cat out of the bag.
Don't undervalue you as a very wonderful person. So
Oh,
I don't.
thank you.
Different people bring out different parts of different people, and there was sort of like a fast lane to the truth and getting inside, expressing truths that I really enjoyed in our interactions together.
Well, because you're such a caring soul, and that was what really was apparent to me, not just in our own interactions, but in your podcast interviews and your speaking. And that's why I think this new focus you're doing for your company is really important, and you're the person to do it. And you're offering an easy solution to empowering your website, so wedding industry professionals, their websites to have accessibility to people with disabilities. So, can you tell me a little bit more about the platform and the ideology behind what you're doing?
Sure. So it's kind of been part of my fabric to, to care about people that have been marginalized, like groups of people. Like back when I was I was with the VP of a leading stationery brand, and there was like you'd never go into like an invitation book or ever see wording for any gender combination. I lobbied, with the company. I said we should do this. We should take the leap, and we were the first company to to share wording that reflected gender diversity. And I was really proud of that. And I was actually interviewed by the Washington Post about that. That was years ago. And I've always just been kind of a champion of that. And also in my own personal journey, I've had the privilege to to be a caretaker for a couple of loved ones that that had disabilities, and it just came upon my radar screen uh, just over the last year. I would get a couple of inquiries for web design saying, well, do you do websites that are ADA compliant? And I started to learn about what that meant. And the thought for wedding businesses that have a certain look and branding and user experience, the thought of saying, okay, got to start all over again and do a whole website because it's the right thing to do. If you're trying to be inclusive, and with inclusivity, we're talking about honoring gender, honoring race, honoring ethnicity, culture. That could easily be expressed by showing imagery. I mean, you can't just say that you are. You have to show it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to making an experience, no matter how nice your website, less compromised for someone that has sight impairment or has ADHD and other cognitive disabilities or epilepsy where they have the difficulty seeing certain colors and flashing. You can't show couples that have disabilities as the solution to honoring them, and understanding that it would be a big leap. First of all, I have to learn how to do websites across the board that are accessible, and I'm actually in the process of doing that, because one of the things that I want to make clear is what we're talking about today, as far as like it's a tool, it's like an overlay that allows a person that has a disability to revamp the settings on a website so they can have a better experience. But that does not mean that the site is 100% accessible. It means that it's a step towards that, and it's a meaningful step. And it also could reduce your exposure according to the American Disabilities Act, that has somewhat of a mandate that is actually enforced by the Department of Justice, that websites, as part of public accommodation for people that have disabilities, provisions should be made to honor them. So we're starting off with something that has a lot of features. It's really easy, and also from a economic standpoint and an expedient standpoint to do something, it's pretty affordable and it's pretty quick and easy to do.
So much was said here already that I have two things that are really sticking out to me. First is, I love that you spoke about the images, and that sometimes you think, well, we'll show an inclusive photo and that's good. But I think really what I'm hearing is it's not just about showing, it's about serving. And having a compliant website is an act in serving clients and serving people who have disabilities. And is the solution that you're doing, is that something where somebody who, let's say they are sight impaired or hearing impaired, or like you mentioned with epilepsy, it's not that the entire website is changed, but that they can select something and that changes the website to meet their needs?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
great. And can you just share a little bit more about the ADA and Americans with Disabilities Act, and what that means and what wedding pros really need to know about it?
Well, essentially, just like in a lot of areas of life, that where there are mandates and requirements, it's something that, like, right now, it's really been a little bit under the radar. There's not been, like, right now, like 98% of all websites are not accessible, and probably probably 99.9% of small business websites are not accessible. It's those larger companies that have a lot to lose, that So they really need to be accessible. It's much more required of them. But what's been happening is that there's been a certain amount of exploitation going on with litigious acts from attorneys. And one particular state that it's happened a lot in is California, because California also has other civil rights acts that really protect the people with disabilities. So it's that much more of another aspect of law that makes it that much more compelling for businesses that have websites in California to do something. But what has happened is that there, besides law firms that are just looking like almost ambulance chasing, there are a group of people that actually have disabilities that are taking the role of being like a civil rights tester. Like they will look at websites and see if they're accessible, and if not, call them out, actually file lawsuits for discrimination. And as most of business people know, it doesn't really matter, of course, if you're, God forbid, ever sued, you certainly don't want to lose the case. But the moment that you get sued, to a certain extent, you lose, because your business is under scrutiny. You have to hire attorneys, and certainly, while there may be political lines and moral lines that exist when it comes to certain other types of diversity, I don't think there's anybody that wouldn't want to honor a person with a disability. So
Absolutely.
so what happens is that in different states there are circuit courts that will decide whether to admit these lawsuits, and some do and some don't. So there's a lot of mixed business. I mean, I've been a student of this for a number of months, where I get Google alerts. If in case anybody that's listening doesn't know what it is, it's an opportunity for you to give Google certain types of keyword terms that they will then send you, if those keyword terms were posted on any new article, on any website. And it's a great way for you to check out your competition, where you can get Google alerts on your competition. Or what I really do is I do wedding industry trends, just different things, so I can continue to be a student of the wedding industry.
Yeah, you're a
So,
master, by the way, at the Google alerts. I remember that. That could be a whole separate topic because
right,
you've got that down.
right. So the the testers file the suits. Sometimes they make it, sometimes they don't. But just in general, what I'm offering is a layer of protection. It's something that, you know what, if there was a randomness of a lawsuit or being called out on, at least if this has been started, something meaningful has been done.
Hmm.
But there are some more benefits of doing this. One is that it is good for SEO, because Google could detect that there are more provisions made to make it a good user experience for more users. And it's also a trust factor with Google. Another thing is that we've created this nice badge that, just like a wedding wire or the knot or chamber of commerce, that could showcase that you're doing it, and you can share it on your social media, etc.
I like that. I even like that as just, something that's put in the bio when you're referring people to your link, that it's ADA compliant. But just to make it clear, is do these lawsuits, do they have legal ground to go forward? Should people listening, I want to make it clear for them if they should be scared or how they should be feeling in light of this.
Look, right now the odds are in your favor that you'll never hear from anybody. It's definitely not this looming doom situation, but it's still a possibility. And I would like to think that people would act on something like this more than out of fear of
Hmm.
their own uh, business liability. That it is an action step towards being more inclusive.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of those positives. I know you got into the SEO aspect of it a bit, but what else are the positives about doing this beyond, the fear of litigation?
I mean, there isn't like a laundry list
Hmm.
of like so many different types of benefits, but to me, it's more of you being as a business representative of inclusiveness and actually taking an action step at a time where this has not been it's been a neglected group, and you being taking this step could position you as taking a really good high ground and being brand elevating. And I truly believe that action steps like that, like when I do like SEO for a client on, one of the things that I will try to do is I will try to look for their niches. And if someone could search, say, for a wedding venue, uh, which is going to say a wedding venue in Chicago, and that could be searched 10,000 times a month. And if you come up high on Google, you're going to get a lot of traffic to your website. If you specialize in doing, say, Indian weddings or Asian weddings, and even 50 or 100 people searched on Google for that type of wedding, and you came up, and your, say, a landing page for that particular type of event was the Google result that came up high in the search engines. When somebody came to that page, just the fact that you are honoring that tradition, that you have understand those nuances, could be an express train for them to contact you just because of that. So what I am hypothesizing is that this could also be the case. That just the fact that you're being inclusive, if somebody has a close family member, or the fact that they are having a better experience in their wedding research journey, that alone could be a really big determinant for them to want to contact you, because they feel heard, they feel honored.
I think that's so relevant because there's nothing more personal than your wedding. And knowing that somebody understands that layer of yourself or your family, I think really is a big indicator of what may entice somebody to book. And it's not just about booking, but creating that connection with your couples and your clients. I know you're all about that because like I've mentioned earlier, it's not just a transaction, it's a connection. And I feel like this kind of expands upon that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And interestingly enough, I forgot to share this. One of the biggest uh, motivators for me, and that realizing that there was a potential need for this, is that one of my clients in California, was a wedding venue, contacted me saying, "Are you ADA compliant? Do you have something that can help make my site more ADA compliant?" And she sent me this whole article that her Chamber of Commerce sent to her, saying that some of the members are getting sued. You really should be taking action step towards this. So that was really what made me say, take a look, that if that no one in the industry is really doing this. There has been a few people that have spoken about it, but it hasn't been really focused on. And also as a web company that could actually not, install, the overlay, it puts us at an advantage. Someone could go and probably look online and look for other generic solutions, but they still have to get it installed. So we provide like a one-stop solution. Plus, we also have the banner. And one of the other things that I have planned is to do some blog posts that are on national blogs, which I've used often in my SEO strategies, where I would do blog posts that would talk about like the best tips that some of that went on how to plan a wedding, and I would use my clients to provide quotes of their tips. So in this case, it might be talking about the importance of being inclusive to people with disabilities. And here are some of the pioneering wedding vendors that have taken an action step to making their site inclusive and listing them. So I have a lot of step-by-step strategies that I'm planning to implement with this.
That's really exciting. And I think it is something that we should consider the way of the future. And it should be, that the idea that, because I really was in the dark that my website would not be compliant. And we tested my site. You sent me, and I'll have this linked in the show notes. Brian has a free test on his site at adawedding.com, and I filled out the form and it gave me immediate results. And I had no idea I wasn't compliant. And if I knew that was something I would certainly want to take action on or educate myself on and really learn how I can be more inclusive, because the last thing I would want to do is to make somebody feel, ostracized or left out because of what I was putting out there. And I'm sure listeners feel the same. So is there anything else you want to say about that free test on your site? Because I thought that was so terrific.
No, I mean, essentially, it's just a very easy process. You just fill out your brief information, and then you'll get access to adding your website, and then the test will immediately reveal itself. So you can get a really good idea, and we can then do a Zoom where I can show you the actual how the tool works, or you'll be on my website and you'll be able to get access to the tool. There's a little icon that you just click onto, and you'll see this control panel of all these different settings that a person could do to change their experience.
Fantastic. So how does the process of getting the site compliant now work?
I mean, essentially, it's a $720 investment for the first year, and then it would be $650 each additional year. What happens is that there's ongoing requirements that the compliance issues continue to evolve. So it includes any type of updates that happen over all through that time.
So
Uh,
it's not just something where it's like it's not just a matter of fixing your fonts and that's it. This is something that needs to be added and maintained and
right,
so forth.
right. But I'm also committed to learning more and more about what we can do as a design firm to front load our websites with accessibility. I've been consulting with a couple of accessibility experts because I really want to do the right thing here. Again, I don't want to just this is just a starting point that at least people could tiptoe, make a footprint in what I think is a meaningful cause and awareness for the industry to embrace and do something about.
How long does this take?
It's a few days. It's very quick.
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, just knowing that, just with the investment in a few days, boom. And kind of, I just know on my own end that when working with you, you get so much value beyond, once you're in Brian's circle, it's like, you're kind of protected and taken care of. Do you mind sharing a little bit about the other work you do and your consulting work, just for those who are listening?
Sure. Well, essentially, uh, the core of my business is that we do web design and search engine optimization, helping you get found both organically, like the results that you don't have to pay for, not the paid results, and also coming up on Google Maps, which is a very important way to come up on Google, because in the wedding industry, the companies like Wedding Wire and The Knot and other larger platforms are spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to rank for keyword terms that are are used by couples that are looking for local vendors. And instead of continue, because Wedding Wire and The Knot ranks so high on the organic results, instead of continuing their search on Google, they might click onto Wedding Wire and The Knot and look and continue their research for vendors there instead of continuing on Google, which is to a certain extent a defeat for local vendors, because unless they're paying Wedding Wire and The Knot. So being on Google Maps and coming up prominently, Wedding Wire and Knot cannot be listed on a local platform. You have to have a location in that area. So all you're competing with are the natural competitors that you have. So it's less competitive. It's also more visual. When on Google Maps, you can see how many reviews you have. Usually on the first page of Google, the top 3 results on Google Maps come up on the right, very prominently on the home page, which is more visible than any other type of search result. So if you're located in a town or a city that isn't like a population of 10,000 or less, then it pays to try to rank on your Google with your Google business profile. And there's a lot of work done on your actual profile, a lot of fields that you may not realize that are existing that Google wants you to have, because Google is looking for you to update your Google business profile on a regular basis. Most businesses do it every once in a while. And while at least it keeps it current for when people come to the platform, from a Google perspective, if you don't do it regularly, you're not honoring what they look for in best practices.
Thank you. That was a lot right there. And especially just as we were talking during this entire interview, I think your SEO wisdom and knowledge really shines through. So anyone who's listening, I'll have Brian's website link below, the adawedding.com website, as well as Brian, I know you do free consults for people as well, correct?
So what I'll do is, if somebody reaches out, sets up a meeting, I will do homework where I will look at their website so that I become familiar with it, and I'll also do an SEO audit. I mean, not an extensive one that takes me 10 hours, but where I will know enough about what some of the deficiencies might be to speak about them intelligently and point them out.
Mhm.
So if someone will definitely understand more about what's going on as a result of it. And in the approach of doing websites, because I come from the industry, there's a lot more of an understanding where we can proceed without burdening you to learn your business before being able to help you. And we also weigh in on improving existing websites as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, Brian, this is what you and I do for fun sometimes when we're on the call. We'll email each other a website and look at it, and you can tell pretty quick what's working and what isn't. So this is, you don't need the 10 hours. You just look and know with all that expertise you have.
Thank you.
Before we, wrap up, I do like to ask some fun questions, kind of like a bonus round. I didn't really prepare you for them, Brian, but I think you can handle it. So, one thing I always like to ask, if you had to choose cocktail hour or Viennese dessert hour.
Oh boy, well, I might have to take neither
Yeah, there you go.
because I'm very mindful of diet, and I happen to be like a vegetarian, and I take really good care of my health. And I really believe that even if you're on vacation, you're not on vacation from your health. So I I definitely try to be mindful. So uh, I think that the idea of a cocktail hour and being able to sample some of the foods without having a lot of calories, if you as long as you just sample them, I think is probably my preference.
That's a good approach, way to a good way to look at it. Brian, what was the last book you read, or what you're currently reading? I know we have similar kind of reading tastes.
Uh, I mean, I'm actually uh, in the process of starting a book that it's like just new off the shelf. Uh, it's a book about the role of significant others, like that significant others could have a role in your life, like friends, like how
Mm,
friends can have a role in your life that's really, really special, even if you're not in in a love relationship. And I mean, I happen to be in a love relationship, but I have some other people that I care about in my life that I just wanted to learn about that and maybe be able to be of support to them.
yeah. Yeah, do you recall the title?
Uh, no,
That's okay.
but it's actually it's written by Raina Cohn, who's a podcaster from NPR.
Oh, perfect. So we'll be able to find it. Perfect. And what do you think the best weddings have? The best weddings have what?
The best weddings have authenticity
Mm,
and the ability for couples to radiate and express their love boundlessly. The preparation for the people that are asked to weigh in on their wedding, whether with speeches, to to speak with meaning, the officiant to really understand that one of the most amazing parts of a whole wedding day is the emotional impact of the ceremony, and having a DJ or live music that also really gets the couple and understands the value of the whole guest experience. Uh, I have to weigh, of course, everybody likes to have beautiful ambiance with the venue. Of course, that's important, and a lot of people put a lot of weight on the food. Naturally, that isn't as much of a criteria for me, but I think that kind of reflects my vision of that.
yeah, I love that answer. I really love it because those are the things I look back on my wedding and wish it had more of, more feeling, more warmth. Maybe an officiant who understood us instead of what we had. So I really like that you said that.
Yeah, I also like the idea. I mean, there are some companies that actually, as like entertainment companies, that is part of their offerings that they have like a songwriter that'll write a personalized wedding song. I think
Incredible.
I think that's really nice. More the more that a couple could stamp their own individuality into it, I think is very gratifying for them.
Absolutely. And I think that's it's not just everyone thinks the guests remember the food, but if you have a really personal wedding that reflects you, I think that's what people
I mean, I
remember.
love to be moved.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like if I see, just the love and and it really, it's just a joy to be moved to happy tears.
Yes. Yes. Ah, you summed it up, Brian. So any final words for our audience or where they can find you?
Uh, BrianLawrence.com. So if you remember my name, you remember my
Yeah.
website,
And then you can find him.
right? And I think that visiting my website will give you a breath of who I am, and then I make it very, very easy to contact me from there. And even on the ADA wedding, I mean, I have the pages. ADA wedding is more of like a domain name that points to a part of my site, so it's prominently on my website as well to be able to take the test.
Great. So I'll have those both linked below so you can take the test and you can reach out directly to Brian. And I'm just so excited. Brian has finally been here on the podcast. I haven't had him on due to my own issues. I was like, I'm unworthy of Brian on the
Oh, stop it!
podcast. I know.
Oh, thank you.
But
I think we gelled beautifully, so thank you.
yes, yes. So this was fantastic. Everything's going to be linked in the show notes. And make sure you also follow Brian on social media and LinkedIn. Both Brian and I are active on LinkedIn. So I invite you to join us there and have those linked down below. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.